All right, guys, welcome to This Past Follow-Up. This is an appendage to this past weekend where we left off discussing gender roles with more women graduating college than men. In time, women will become the primary breadwinners. And will that leave men out in the dark, in the cold? Will we adapt? Will we evolve? We're going to discuss it right now. Thank you guys for calling in. Thank you guys for texting in. I'm going to chime right back in with the call that we left off with from last week's episode. So that's where we will begin this discussion on this past follow-up. Here we go.
Yo, Theo, what up? My name's Ben. A white dude from the suburbs of New York City.
White dude from the suburbs of New York City. We got a newsie in the house. Take it away, Ben.
This is response to your future predictions. I think what's coming 10 years from now, there's going to be a big cultural meltdown, I feel, between what it means to be a man and a woman from my generation. Because right now, there's a whole bunch of blurred lines and all that, and it's just getting crazy right now.
He's saying there's already blurred lines and it's just getting crazy right now.
But the fact is, I saw a stat yesterday on Snapchat saying, 3 million more women are graduating from college every year than men. The result of that is going to be, major income inequality coming up. And when it comes time to raise a family and stuff, my generation's pretty lost in terms of what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman, the roles that we have to play. And I just don't think that we're ready for that, going from being completely lost of what it means to be, a man or woman, to being thrown into the hard position of being the reliant spouse.
There you go. That's where we put it. That's where we left it. That's where we're going to take it from. And I'm going to just rattle off a few stats here right now to you so you know that we're coming in pretty clear. On average, Ben's call, thank you very much for your call, first of all, Ben. I believe it was Ben. On average, college graduates make more money than non-degree holders. That is fact. You can go look that up, on average. In 2015, adults with bachelor's degrees took home more than those with high school diplomas. That's a stat by almost maybe 25,000. That's one study that I read, okay? More women are currently enrolled in college than men by a pretty good margin, it seems. Not huge, but decent. So you do the math right there. If college graduates make more women are currently enrolled, then in time, women are going to be the primary breadwinners. That's where we are. That is where we're headed. Are we headed for a big cultural meltdown? That's what we're going to discuss. I mean, my first instinct is that this is whack, That's just my instinct. I'm not saying it's correct. I'm saying that's what my instinct. And why do I think that? Because I'm a man, right? A man is supposed to be the man. It's wired in him to be so. I grew up in a time when the idea was that the man was the father and the woman was the mother. That was the idea. It was also the reality of the way that things were, that men were the breadwinners, And it also fits scientifically, like, men are the stronger. Women could give birth. The man protected the woman after she gave birth. The man went out and took care of the family while the woman stayed in the home and fed the child. The woman had milk coming out of her body. Women have milk and eggs in their body. I mean, that's a Denny's, really, that they've got going on over there. But so all those pieces fit genetically, right? It made sense. And that was kind of the environment that I grew up in. Now, is my instinct correct in that? Yeah, I think it is correct. I think my instinct is correct, that because it's my instinct. It's what I believe. It's what I think intrinsically. But now I got to take my instinct and put it against reality. I am old-fashioned. I'm more of a traditionalist, So things change and things evolve. And so I have to see, well, does my instinct match up with the reality of things? And against the reality that Women are going to become the breadwinners. They're going to become what in our day and age is kind of the hunter-gatherers in a way. That means that things are going to change. It's the truth. Things are going to change. Things are changing. This is a time when things are changing. So now I have to compare how I react and how I adapt, because those are different things. Our reaction by men, well, right now it's pretty wild. There are more male suicides than ever. There's been a huge uptick in male suicides. Go look it up. Walk outside right now. Don't get hit by a man, okay? Because men are killing themselves, jumping off of buildings, drugs, whatever you want to do. Men are finding death. They are hunting death. They feel like they don't know what to do with themselves. A stat that I read that I found, I'm not saying this is completely factual, but you can look it up for yourself. Middle-aged men between 45 to 64 saw the greatest uptick in suicide rates among any male age group, increasing by 43% over the last 15 years. So 43% more men killing themselves over the last 15 years in that age group. That's pretty huge, bruh. That's a lot of dudes saying, for some reason, I don't know what's going on, I'm checking out. I'm tapping into these oxycodons, or I'm going to drown myself, or I'm going to, put a hose in my mouth and hook it to the exhaust, or hang myself. And a lot of men are also doing the thing where they jerk off and hang themselves at the same time. And I don't know if that's like a biological reaction that men are dealing with. I mean, you don't want to feel inferior. Especially those men in that age group, they grew up in a time when really the man was the man. The man had the paddle. The man had the man was at war. The man was, arm wrestling and biting animals if he had to, and, being dangerous and cutting off his arms, and doing things that men had to do to survive and to take care of things, and fixing the tires and, all types of stuff like that, murdering their spouse. I mean, that was I'm not saying that's a popular thing, but that was something that a man had to do that he felt like made him a man. And now that's obviously threatened by a lot of these men. And I say, if you are feeling depressed about your role as a man, I say, don't overreact. Don't be one of these jumpers, or one of these pill monkeys, or one of these fellas that are just, filling their mouth with heroin and just riding the lightning and seeing if the devil's going to come and get them, or seeing, going to meet their maker. Don't be that guy. Hold the line. That's what I say. Because there are bigger forces at play. The reality is that it's going to take more time for us to adjust to these new circumstances, to the fact that women will be the primary breadwinners. There's going to be a reaction. There's going to be an overreaction. And that could be what we're dealing with now. But it's going to take longer for us to actually evolve internally for us to be able to accept this. It took us this long to evolve into whatever we're doing now. So even though there's pressure in the mainstream media, there's forces at play out there that are saying, you got to accept the way it is right now and do this and do that. Those are all manufactured forces, Those are mainstream media. Those are aggressive feminism. Those are things that are, you can't take all that at once. You have to realize that we as men are going to have to evolve into it. So if you're feeling like you got to jump off of something, hold the line, weather the storm. Let's see how it plays out. Don't give up. Don't give into the pitfalls. Drugs, excessive masturbation. That's another one. The pornography, all of that, all the things that weaken the manhood and then are going to then make you feel more susceptible to these things that are going on. because also feminism is a huge business that's out there right now. It's a huge business. It's a moneymaker. And there's a lot of women out there screaming about feminism and about how to be a woman who don't even have any children, which is fine. You don't have to have children, but they're yelling at mothers who are raising kids, that these women need to be out in the workforce. And there's just a lot of things going on right now that aren't fully adding up. So I say just hold the line, man. If you're thinking about, cutting off your head or your arteries or something, hold the line, because there's going to be time, and it's going to take time for us to evolve, right? There's going to be an adjustment period. And that's one issue I have sometimes with, today, there's no adjustment period. It's immediately just like, you need to feel this way, and Hollywood influences a lot of that. You need to feel, you better, men better be wearing tampons tomorrow, like, relax, okay? Don't buy into all that bullshit. And then secondarily, in the meantime, what it's going to take us a while to evolve into this tertiary being, this tertiary human, or the secondary, the non-breadwinner. I say embrace that shit, dude. It's like when you're driving across country and you get tired, let your lady drive now. It's their turn to drive. That's fine. You don't think, fine, you want to get out there in the workforce? Cool. It sucks. It sucks. Well, oh, what is that? It sucks. That's what that is. Maybe we've arrived, man. Maybe we finally get to take a break, I can stay at home now and watch all the, the female-driven talk shows, Betty Springer and Johnny Jones and, well, Ellen will probably be the same. Ellen won't change, but, now it's our time. We can relax. We can wear a nightgown if we want. Imagine that, guys. You had to get up at 6:30. Now you don't. Now you get to go and ride a bicycle, a stationary bike from 9 to 10, and then you get to put your nightgown back on and eat snacks and be having chocolates at home and be fancy and relax. And you get to shop online. Maybe this is our chance finally to just be housewives. So I'm saying until genetically we adapt, how we react should be, 1, don't kill yourself. Don't lose it. Don't shoot up a bunch of secretaries who are getting promoted. Don't do that. I say embrace it. Embrace it. Be the fancy ladies if we want. It's time for us to take a break, maybe. Maybe we're so stressed out that it's time for us to take a break. Maybe now we have that choice. Now we can learn an instrument. Pick up a drum. Pick up a flute, a clarinet. You want to go to war, ladies? Go. You want to fight in the front lines? Go. Maybe now there will be a less pressure. Maybe now as women become the providers. See, that's what I worry about, though, is if women are becoming the providers, how are they going to then treat us? Are they going to treat men the way that a lot of feminists claim that men have treated women? Are they going to, how does that work? And I think different places will react differently to this as well. Like growing up in Louisiana, this sounds scary, This sounds like I'm going to be inferior. This sounds like I'm not going to be a man. I'm not going to be able to play football or hoops, or put on my sneakers, But now in Los Angeles or in Seattle, it doesn't sound like anything new probably. It just sounds like whatever. Who cares? It's about the money. It's about, it's about us, being able to provide for our kids, and, just the ways of thinking are different. So we have to recognize that too. The perspectives on this are going to be different. There's still a manhood perspective when you get into a lot of America. But in a lot of cities, you can't be a man anymore. I mean, I sometimes I'll introduce myself as a woman or as a hardy lesbian. That's one of the reasons sometimes why I'm growing this, the beauty out the back. Why I got that freaking, oh God, that candy apple backsplash coming off the back of my head, And people always want to ask about the hairdo. I say, first of all, the Lord is growing this. I'm just out here sharecropping. I'm not I'm just the farmer, I'm not the seed provider. The Lord is growing all this beautiful mane out the back, But we got to recognize, guys, that it's going to be different in different places, and we have to accept that, In an article in New York Magazine, it said that women as the breadwinners, this is something they've found that happened in studies. And I'm going to get to a couple of y'all's calls in just a second. For women, the shift in economic power, this is a quote, for women, the shift in economic power gives them new choices, not least among them the ability to reappraise their partner. And husbands, for their part, may find to their chagrin that being financially dependent isn't exactly a turn-on. According to psychologists and divorce lawyers who see couples struggling with such changes, many relationships follow the same pattern. First, the wife starts to lose respect for her husband. Then he begins to feel emasculated, and then the sex dwindles to a full stop. And now right there, that's not a good sign. Now, that's just from this New York Magazine article. That's not, who knows if these are solid facts in here. I don't know what news you can trust these days anymore. But that's interesting, though, that once women become the breadwinners, they then look at their partners differently. That no matter who the breadwinner is, it puts you in that place of superiority where you are really casting judgment. And at that point, the men also felt, less than. And when a man feels less than, feels emasculated, that's when they struggle with their erections. And that's a fact, Jack. You could look at, there's a movie about Black Sea World. I think it's called Black Sea World. And it's about how they treat black whales at SeaWorld. And in this film, they talk about the dorsal fin on a lot of, I'm not sure if it's dolphins or whales, but if that animal is unhappy, the dorsal fin will go limp. And so I'm just wondering if, a lot of men, if their dorsal is going to get a little docile, if you know what I mean. And the movie's mostly just about black whales, I think, and that's, I guess there's racism everywhere, but this is, I'm just making that comparison that when a man feels less than, then what effects happen. And I think some of that we don't know yet. And that's where I think we go back to Ben's call, where it's like he feels like it could be huge. It could be a disaster. Here's another stat I'll read right here. About 3/4 of adults say the increasing number of women working for pay has made it harder for parents to raise children, and half say that it has made marriages harder to succeed. At the time, 2/3 say it has made it easier for families to live comfortably. So yes, if women are out there working and making money, families will be able to live more comfortably. But the dynamic in the household, will anybody be home to take care of the children? Will men feel more competitive, like we have to react? Those are some of my concerns. We had this caller texted in, Emily, and this is a quote from her call. I couldn't put the whole thing. I'm reading this call. This was a text, actually, a text call. Finger call thing. There may be a shift coming in the future where women are more successful career-wise than in the past, but I don't think it has to mean there will be more tension between the sexes or a breakdown of the family unit. We should all be rooting for others to be the best version of themselves possible, because in the end, that allows all of us to be our best versions. even if that means more women in the workforce and more men at home or whatever. I think people should do what makes them feel happy and fulfilled. I think the point you made, she's referencing a point I made on this past weekend. I think the point you made about being a team is extremely important. There is nothing more important, in my opinion, than a child growing up with two happy parents that work together and teach teamwork, whether they be married or doing the shared parenting thing. So I guess my main feeling is that I don't think this is something to worry about, as long as we are all rooting for each other, no matter our gender. Just my perspective, though, Emily. Well, yeah, I mean, it's a nice theory, Emily. It's a nice theory, and I believe that you should treat your partner fairly. I believe that you should love your partner and lift them up. I think it's one of the biggest problems. We get set in bad habits in relationships and in marriages where we don't do that, and then out of some odd fears, we're afraid to change and make those changes to do that. And those are a lot of things that kill relationships. But we don't know the outcome yet. We don't know the long-term outcome of women making more money and then men just being like, okay, this is great, and then feeling like it's like we're just going to work together to be parents and everything's going to be happy. I mean, women didn't react that way. Apparently, if women were feeling less than as a whole, as a society, which I don't know if they overall have been, or if a lot of that is the media pushing that. But if women have been feeling that way, then their reaction has been, I think, sometimes overly aggressive. I think a lot of times it's been emasculating. I mean, according to the study by the New York Magazine, that it doesn't end well. According to psychologists who see couples struggling with such changes, many relationships follow the same pattern. The wife starts to lose respect for her husband, begins to feel emasculated, the sex dwindles to a stop. And I'm sure the relationship isn't going to go on at that point. So, I mean, it's a great theory, Emily, and I hope that it can work that way. I mean, because it's happening. That's the thing. It's starting to happen. Now, will men even be attracted to these type of women for anything other than sexual purposes? Or will there be this lot of women who are these superior money-making, bread-winning women who will kind of cater to these, who will be, have these, husbands that are more docile and not, more like the black sharks that they were being mean to at SeaWorld? Will they be more like that? It's a good question. It's a lot. It's a lot in the air because there's a lot we don't know. There's a lot we don't know. We're not there yet. I mean, it's already odd sometimes for me, I think you almost want to get hooked on it, like I could see myself getting hooked on it. I could see myself, when a woman holds the door for me one time, walking through and being like, holy shit, this is dope. This is great. Sure. Women want to be the leaders. Sure. Oh, I'll take a drink at the bar. I'll take a martini. I'll take a martini, Deandra. Sure. Oh, we'll have shots, right? Hey, Lauren, shots for all of me and my boys, right? Like, I could see some of that activity, some of that flaring up in me. Because I could get hooked on that. You hold the door for me one time? Shit, I might stand there forever till a woman opens it again, I mean, maybe that's one of the reasons why it's taken women so long to, or not so long, why it's been such a slow climb towards this proposed inequality that's out there, is because a lot of women were probably enjoying it. I think a lot of married mothers are happy in their lives. And maybe not in some coastal cities, but when you look in the rest of America, I'm in Pittsburgh last week. The women seem to be, it didn't feel like there was this unhappy women in the world, Most of them just care about being a good wife and a good mother, which I think are the mother part, certainly something that defines a woman for me, is that ability and desire to be a good mother. I think that's extremely important. And to want to be a good wife, to be a good partner, to be that other half. Now, maybe there's just been a lot of bad men over the years that have given other men a bad rap. I mean, because if women turn power hungry, then what? If they turn into these men that, because it's crazy. It's like the men that were rude to women, they're not around anymore. Or they're like, my grandfathers, our grandfather. Like those, it's always like we're battling the previous generation. So now you have a lot of men who I feel like are trying to be good to women. And you have a lot of women who are fighting their grandmother's fight and taking it out on present day men. I mean, what if a woman comes home, your wife comes home, you don't have dinner ready, Gary, and next thing you know, you get fucking choked out. I mean, that's one of my biggest concerns with women becoming the primary breadwinners, which is happening, is that in time, Lysandra's going to come home. Gary's not going to have, the Brussels sprouts done to perfection. And Gary's going to fucking get choked out. Gary's going to get choked out. And then what? I mean, I just don't know. I don't know. Let's take another call. Let's go to another call here. And this is from Matt. Matt, thank you for calling.
What's up, bro? This is Matt on Virginia Beach. Sad I missed it last time you came through here. Hopefully you will be soon. But I was calling about women being a breadwinner. Just as a male, as a man myself who works 6 days a week doing manual labor, I have no problem. In fact, my fiance, who had graduated from college, got her master's degree, will one day be bringing in bigger bucks.
Okay, so we have Matt. This call's a little choppy to hear. He's a manual labor. You can actually hear some machinery going on in the background, calling from Virginia. And he's saying that his wife, who is getting a master's degree, will soon be the bigger breadwinner in their home.
And myself, because that doesn't mean that I myself can't work and we will be able to have more money. And it takes away the stress, I believe, of having to worry about caring for her, and that I think actually brings a little bit more respect to her position as a female, because I feel like most manly things that you can do is to respect your significant other. So yeah, that's basically it. That I don't think it will be as much of a cultural meltdown as much as a cultural meshing as we tend to do as we develop and move into the future.
Okay, so he's saying cultural meshing as opposed to a cultural meltdown. I mean, I'll say this. It sounds like Matt has a very healthy perspective of a relationship. I'll say that right out of the gate. He obviously lifts his wife up. He is, you can tell in his voice he's proud of her. He's happy for her. And it also sounds a little bit like he has control over his homestead. Can you hear that in his voice? I did. I know it's hard to hear a little bit, but it sounds like he is confident. He's out there doing manual labor. He's a man. I'm not saying that defines a man, but I think there's a lot of men out there who, who you feel it in your bones. If you are a pussy man, or if you are just a feeble man, you feel that. Even if you're making money, you're driving past a man who's got a shovel in his hands. There's something that resonates in your spine that lets you know that man with the shovel wins. I'm not saying he wins at the bank. I'm not saying he wins at the fancy restaurant when you eating there and he's eating next door at the other place. But I'm saying there's something in a man that resonates, that man, that when it comes down to it, that man's going to win. That man's going to beat you. that man's going to beat you. There's something that resonates in a man. But back to his call, back to Matt's call with the gender meshing. Yeah, that's huge. I mean, you can lift your wife up. He feels that it's going to be helpful to their family, helpful to their environment, and he sees it as a positive. I mean, that's a big way to look at it, bud, because a lot of people don't see that, you know? A lot of people don't see that. But to see that and to recognize that, I think is important. You know, I think that's another way to hold the line, is just to take it in positively. If your wife is going to make more than you, and still be a man. You know, that's why it's so crucial right now to be a man. Not just gender, not just to wake up every morning with your wiener and your balls and everything, but to have some strength of character and to stand by what means something to you and to make choices that are good for yourself and that are good for your family and that are good for people that you care about. Because if not, you're going to get caught up and you're going to be jumping off these fucking buildings. And you can say, oh, you're crazy. What are you talking about? But I'll tell you right now, if you're out there popping somas and doing wheelies on bicycles and you're 30 years old and you don't have a solid plan, in 10 years, you're not even going to be able to get a woman. Because now what's in time, what women have needed men because they're the breadwinners. When you ain't winning no bread, when your bakery ain't open because you ain't got no dough, times are going to change, brother. And a man that's eating somas and, you know, contraband pills and being out there doing wheelies or whatever, homemade tattoos and all this shit, piercing his ears and fucking stabbing shit through his nose and stuff, that man's not going to be doing well in 10 years. Because right now, the only thing that guy's going for him that's attractive to other women is that he is still in a lot of women's minds and in their genetics, the breadwinner. But that's changing fast in our reality. It's changing fast in our reality. Even though it's going to take a long time to change genetically, it's going to take a long time for us to evolve to that space. But that's real, man. That's hot. So that's a great approach. It's a great approach that Matt called in about. You know, if that's your case, you hold the line, you stay confident. You're still a man that keeps his schedule, that keeps his word, you know, and you embrace the fact. And if your wife turns that on you, and then that's when you stand up for yourself. You know, Jesus, I mean, these are these speeches. As I'm saying these things, these are the things that women were getting told 15 years ago and 30 years ago in secret basements at the mall, you know, and at these parties where they're, you know, selling all these plastic cocks and all these things and confetti and all this shit. These dinner, whatever these are, sex things, shops, tea times or whatever. So this is it. This is where we are, man. You don't want to look at where we are, that's fine. You might be in a position right now, that's fine. You got a job, you're doing blah, blah, blah. But if you're not dealing with this, your son is going to be. Your younger brother might be. You know? I mean, I think it's a good time. If you got a woman out there who you think's a good woman, grab her. Settle down. Because some of these nasty women are going to be getting even nastier. And then if you have a good woman, you know, a woman is just like, it doesn't matter who makes what. We're going to team up and we're going to move forward. That can be really real. You know, you got to recognize that and trust your instincts. You know, trust your instincts. But hold the line. Stay off those rooftops. Stay off the pills. Keep it together because the stats are out there. The stats are out there, guys. I'm sorry to get fired up about this, but it's hard for me too. You know, because in my life, I don't know, sometimes if I ever, you know, I didn't even have a father figure growing up, you know, to be personal. And, you know, sometimes I feel like, well, fucking, I didn't even get a chance to, I'm still learning how to be a man right now. So part of me feels like I never even got to be that man, that man of the time, I mean, I've done some things here and there, and I've conquered a lot of vagina and, dealt with some, touched the buttocks and everything of breasts of a lot of women out there, and I've seen some titties and had some nipples in my mouth and been a part of that sensuality. But I don't know, sometimes in my spine of spines, and in my mentality, just growing up and not having the influence of a strong man in my life, if I've ever really, really felt like that. That's why I'm going through the things I am today, still learning to grow and learning to be an adult. And it's progress, not perfection. That's what I got to remind myself. I'm going to close this out, guys, because it's already been, I think it's been an interesting conversation. I hope it has been. I want to take more calls on it. I want to hear more of you guys' thoughts. The hotline, you can hit the hotline with any thoughts you have, any questions you have. Everything is important to me, and I appreciate it. And sometimes it'll take a while to use them in the show. But that number is 985-664-9503. That's 985-664-9503. I'd love to hear your comments on this, and I'll try to make an episode for next Thursday as well, where we can comment back on this. And then you can also place regular calls to that, regular voicemails. Dealing with anything you're struggling with or you're thinking about, or just a question you got for the cat right here. Because I'm just out there living. I mean, I'm a comedian. I know we get a little serious sometimes on this, but I'm a comedian in my heart. In my job these days, I feel like my hope is that my higher power makes me a conduit of joy and helps me to utilize my abilities to the best. But we are struggling out there. Everyone is. If you're struggling with, addiction, or, you don't know what, a good recipe or anything. It could be anything. You don't like your hair. You don't like your nose. You don't like your face. You don't like your neck. I wish I had a little bit of a longer neck. If I could just see my grandfather when he was just 40 minutes old, I'd stretch his neck a little. Just because I would, if I could go back in time, because I'd know that would come down genetically to me. But if you're having issues, you hit that hotline, let me know. Now, do I have great advice? I'm not saying that. But if I can relate and share my experience and share some strength, then I'm happy to do that. There's a lot of things I can't, a lot of things I have no idea. But if there's something I think that I can share, then at least suddenly you don't have your problem just alone, do you? Now we're sharing a problem. And now you got half a problem. I feel like that's the way it should work, man. And I appreciate you guys calling in. I got one more call here that came in, and I thought this was really interesting. This gentleman wanted to talk a little bit about the future, and this was another take that he had on some stuff. Here we go with this one.
Hey, Theo. This is Brian Deluge calling you from Austin, Texas.
Brian Deluge calling from Austin, Texas. And I'm just going to let you guys know, actually, that I will be in Austin a little bit later this year, man. I'll be at Cap City, and that's Wednesday, September 6th through September 10th. I'll be down there in Austin. And Nashville. I'm just going to drop the dates on you, man. I got Nashville coming up, and that is July 7th and 8th. If you have a friend in Nashville, send them out, because I need some support in that city. And then I'll be in Orlando the week after that, San Diego, Las Vegas, Addison, Texas, and Cleveland is just on the schedule now, September 21st through 24th. But let's get to that call, and then we'll close it out. Here we go.
I just got let out of work in the middle of the day because our data is being held hostage. So I thought it would be a good time to call about the future. They say where the last 100 years of technology was driven by physics, in the next 100 years, the star of the show is going to be biology. We already have the ability to edit our DNA using this technique called CRISPR. That's CRISPR with no E.
Okay, so he's saying that, speaking about the future, his data at work is somehow held hostage today. It must be an in-work term. They must be having some technical issues there at his work. And so he thought he'd call about the future, since that's what we're talking about. And his comments here are that they can already genetically alter us with this thing called CRISPR, CRISPR, and that biology is going to be the star of the show in the next 100 years. Let's continue to listen.
And that means we're kind of at step one to creating superhumans and things like that. And my big concern is, what's the backup plan if we screw up everybody's genetics in some unforeseen way? Like if we all go out and get DNA work done to make our dicks bigger, it all might look fine and harmless until our children's children are born with skin that just falls off or something like that. I want to propose maybe taking one of these big square states and fencing it off for people who can volunteer to remain technologically stagnant. You know, kind of like the Amish, but maybe set it to 2014 or somewhere they can have flip phones and fast internet at home, but they hold off on the crazy shit so that if we doom ourselves with a science project, then the species can be rebooted from these legacy folks. Would love to hear what you think. I really dig the show, and it's great how you're helping the younger set reflect on themselves and figure out the world. I've got some ideas about this, and maybe I should share in an email if that's not...
Awesome, man. I didn't mean to cut you off there, Brian, but thank you very much for that call. Wow. So genetically, he feels like, according to this CRISPR, that they already have the first, the ground floor to be able to build superhumans. Basically testing. And what's that going to be like? What we're going to be cavemen. We're going to be someone's cavemen. You realize that? And he's proposing that as they test these things and try them, since we don't know the long-term effects, that we keep a certain I don't know what it's called in science. It's called a certain group of people that we don't change at all. He's saying that we take a state, and I'm going to throw Mississippi out there, dude, because you know how I feel about Mississippi. And that those people don't change at all. So that in case they fuck everything up and the genetic adjustments aren't cool, that now we still have a regular people to go back and reboot from. We have basically that hard, we have that, just like you would your original software. That's interesting. Now, if I'm gonna ask you guys this question. You can chime in on this as well if you want to call in. If you had that option to be one of the tested or to stay the legacy, if you had the option to be one of the tested or to be, someone that just stayed the line, what would you do? Would you take that chance to be superhuman? I mean, your head could fall off 2 days into the experiment. Or would you hold the line and live out the current life that you've been gifted? It's a good question, man. I'm going to leave you guys on that. This is This Past Follow-Up. You can find my tour dates at theovon.com/tour, T-O-U-R. As well, we got the new album that just came out. It's called 30 Pound Bag of Hamster Bones. You can get that on iTunes. And my early works, Theo Von Early Works of Satire, Musket Fire. That's available on iTunes as well now. You can grab that. There's some dope artwork as well. You can find that on theovon.com/store. I appreciate your support. I'll see you at the Calusa Casino tomorrow or tonight, this Friday night. And I will see you in New York City on the 23rd and in Stark County, Illinois on June 30th. You guys take care of yourselves and be good to yourselves, because I bet you deserve it. Thank you to all of our callers for calling in. Thank you, Emily, for calling in. A lot of good energy and a lot of good attitudes, and I appreciate you guys listening. Y'all take care. Brush your hair, baby boy. Bye-bye.